This is True Crime Stories. We focus on the facts.
It is a quiet night in Salt Lake City in early June 2002. The Wasatch Mountains sit dark against a clear sky. Sprinklers click on and off along a residential street where porch lights remain on longer than necessary. A window is left open to let in cool air. By morning, a bedroom will be empty. Salt Lake City is arranged in a grid: wide streets, clear sight lines, church steeples that anchor neighborhoods, families who recognize which cars belong to which driveways. When something shifts, people notice. On June 5th, 2002, 14-year-old Elizabeth Smart is taken from her home during the night. Her younger sister later tells investigators she heard a man's voice in the bedroom. She describes a figure at the window and movement inside the room. By early morning, her parents contact police. Salt Lake City police respond immediately. Officers canvass the neighborhood. Patrol units block nearby streets. Search dogs move through yards and alleys. Helicopters sweep low across rooftops. The grid becomes a search pattern. News stations interrupt regular programming. Elizabeth's photograph is broadcast across Utah and then nationally. Flyers appear in grocery stores, gas stations, and on telephone poles. Her name is read aloud in churches and classrooms. An address becomes a focal point. Investigators receive information that days earlier, a man had approached homes in the area asking for work. He referred to himself as Emmanuel. Neighbors recall him carrying a Bible and speaking about religion. A composite sketch is created from witness descriptions. The image circulates through television and print. Tips arrive through hotlines. Search teams extend beyond the neighborhood. Volunteers gather in foothills east of the city. Horseback riders check trails that climb toward the mountains. Parks, canyons, and open land are divided into sectors. The terrain offers range and concealment. Weeks pass. The case does not leave the news cycle. Each reported sighting generates response. Each unconfirmed lead requires verification. Law enforcement agencies coordinate across city and state lines. Federal resources assist the investigation. The system expands to meet the absence. Summer shifts toward fall. The calendar moves into months. Elizabeth remains missing. Her image becomes familiar nationwide. Age progression photos are distributed. Community events raise awareness. Billboards display her face above highways. The city's daily routines continue beneath a sustained alertness. On August 12, 2002, in Sandy, Utah, a suburb south of Salt Lake City, a bystander notices a couple walking with a teenage girl. The girl's hair appears darker than in widely circulated photographs. Her clothing is loose and layered. The man walks beside her, speaking. The bystander studies the face. Recognition interrupts uncertainty. Police are contacted. Officers approach the group. The man identifies himself as Brian David Mitchell. The woman identifies herself as Wanda Barzee. The girl does not immediately speak. Officers separate her from the adults and ask direct questions. She gives her name: Elizabeth. 9 months after her abduction, she is found alive. The news travels quickly. Media gather outside police facilities. Helicopters circle above official buildings rather than search sites. The same grid that once directed patrols now directs traffic around reporters and supporters. Mitchell and Barzee are arrested. Investigators reconstruct the period of captivity. Prosecutors later describe how Elizabeth was moved between campsites and concealed locations. Court filings outline the use of control, isolation, and religious justification. The timeline stretches across highways, public land, and urban edges. The case transitions from search to prosecution. Legal proceedings extend over years. Mental competency evaluations delay trial. Courts examine whether Mitchell is able to stand trial. Experts testify. Judges rule. In 2009, Wanda Barzee pleads guilty to kidnapping and unlawful transportation of a minor. She is sentenced to prison. Mitchell's case proceeds separately. In 2010, a federal judge rules him competent to stand trial. In 2011, after testimony and deliberation, a jury convicts Brian David Mitchell. He is sentenced to life in federal prison. Court orders replace search warrants. With convictions entered, the formal case concludes. The search logs are archived. Trial transcripts are stored. Sentencing documents are filed within federal records. The system that mobilized helicopters and volunteers now preserves evidence and rulings. Salt Lake City returns to visible routine. Children walk to school along the same sidewalks where flyers once hung. Families drive into the mountains for hiking and skiing on trails once combed by search teams. The grid remains. The mountains remain. Elizabeth Smart speaks publicly in the years that follow. She becomes an advocate for missing children and survivor rights. Her testimony shifts from personal experience to policy discussion. She addresses law enforcement conferences, legislative hearings, and community gatherings. Her name remains associated not only with disappearance and recovery, but with reform. The official records show dates. June 5th, 2002. August 12th, 2002. Sentencing years later. They document search patterns, arrest reports, competency hearings, and verdicts. They do not record the quiet vigilance of neighbors who left porch lights on through the summer. They do not measure the way a city scanned faces in grocery stores, parks, and church pews. They do not capture the collective pause each time a lead surfaced. Salt Lake City continues to expand. New houses rise along the foothills. Traffic increases along interstates. Church bells still mark Sundays. Sprinklers still turn on in early summer mornings. But June 2002 remains fixed in local memory. A window left open. A neighborhood alerted before sunrise. A photograph carried across state lines, and a park in Sandy where someone looked closely enough at a familiar face to act. The system responded with searches, prosecutions, and sentences. The city responded with attention. And between those responses lies the path from absence to recovery, recorded in files and remembered on the same streets where it began.